under your chairmanship, and I want to extend my thanks to the honourable member for bringing this debate forward. And it's quite nice to be in a debate where we all agree that we all agree what the problem is, and we all agree that we have to find somehow a way through it. And indeed, we all agree that seagulls are a menace to our towns and cities, thriving on litter, their aggressive behaviour towards other birds, other pets, other people, and we know that this is increasingly problematic. I particularly want to speak in this debate today because this is a problem that confronts the seaside town of Largs in my constituency. Now, Largs, for those of you who have not yet been fortunate enough to visit it, and I recommend that you do, it's a beautiful, picturesque seaside town with so much to offer for local residents and visitors, but there is the constant challenge by the presence of seagulls. And these challenges are by turns anything from a simple nuisance to a downright menace and everything in between. We've had, as has been said today in the debate, we've had cases of people being quite badly injured and other people who have escaped with simply being terrorised. But one important instrument in tackling seagulls in coastal areas is first stop, and I think somebody's mentioned this already, is for the public to stop feeding them, because this only attracts more of them and builds up the expectation in seagulls that food is there for the taking. These seagulls, as we all know, hover in the sky, waiting to snatch food from local people eating fish and chips at the prom, and have even been known to plague Largs residents when they sit in their gardens some distance away from the shoreline. It's important that day trippers in seaside towns like Largs appreciate the need not to feed seagulls. Largs welcomes thousands of day trippers every year at high season. And if you take your child to Largs for a visit and your child is viciously attacked by a seagull, it seems logical that you wouldn't choose to return to Largs because of that. The famous Largs ice cream outlet, the world-famous Largs ice cream outlet Nardini's, has even warned their patrons not to eat their ice cream outdoors, since the seagulls will soon appear to claim it as their own. Indeed, nothing can really be safely eaten on the shorefront without risking life and limb at the hands, or should I say the beak, of a vicious seagull. And I can top my honourable friend's story about a packet of Doritos being snatched in his constituency. In my own constituency, a vicious seagull was even bold enough to snatch a £20 note from an unsuspecting visitor's hand, only to deposit that same note some distance down the street when it realised that it wasn't particularly appetising. But we know that the problem of seagulls is not confined to town centres and the seafront. They breed and nest on the flat roofs of houses, they squabble with each other, they squawk incessantly at all hours of the day or night, creating a nasty racket. They bombard and soil windows, they soil washing, and this noise and filth, which can only be a health hazard, constitutes quite a serious challenge for residents, even in the most picturesque towns like Largs. But Largs has been thinking creatively, or trying to think creatively about this issue. And one idea that's been mooted, and I don't think it's been mentioned today, and there may be a good reason for that, but one idea that's been mooted is the deployment of birds of prey to try to control the number of seagulls. And this would have the effect of hawks being used as a deterrent to the seagulls, working them away to an area which is much less densely populated and letting them congregate elsewhere. I understand the solution has worked in Anglesey, so why not in Largs? Why not in other seaside towns? It would also be important to provide a feeding station elsewhere in order to move the food source and keep the seagulls in a designated zone. And as the honourable members already mentioned, that in itself would be good for the health and lifespan of the seagulls themselves. Assistance has been sought from local councils, and in Largs this has resulted in solar seagull-proof bins. The bins in Largs very often are filled to overflowing, given as it has a very high turnover of visitors in summer, because the town is very robust. But this is when the town is packed with visitors, very, very quickly, very early in the day, the bins start to overflow. But these solar-proof seagull-proof bins were installed last summer at the seafront, And as well as having improved capacity, these bins compress the waste and alert the council when the bins require to be emptied. And this innovation has been warmly welcomed by both visitors and residents of the town, although I can't take any credit for lobbying for these bins. That credit must go to the local MSP, and in the interests of family harmony, I should say that happens to be Kenneth Gibson, my husband. I'll give way to the information.
Can I thank the honourable lady for giving way to me, and I hope that she can actually help me, because I'm somewhat confused. We have devolved assemblies and we have a Scottish Assembly. So what role does the Scottish Assembly play in all of this? Is it a reserved matter for the Westminster Whitehall government, or is it an issue also for policy in the Scottish Parliament to also be weighed?
Well, this is a matter, as the honourable gentleman will know, which is ultimately the responsibility of local authorities, but support and guidance is given about the treatment of species from the Scottish Parliament. Now, you may well ask, and I suspect, perhaps unfairly, that is the core of the honourable gentleman's question is, what am I doing here today? But the reason I am here today, I will enlighten the honourable gentleman, is to share good practice. Because I was under the impression, I came here today hoping that the honourable gentleman's pearls of wisdom would cascade over me and I could report these innovations in Scotland, and I hope that I can similarly help the honourable gentleman. So I hope indeed I will.
And I wanted to know as to how the whole thing works. So I served on the Northern Ireland Select Committee, and every time there was an issue which was thought to be Northern Irish, one of the members would remind me that this was a reserved matter for the Northern Ireland Executive, and nothing really to do with us in Westminster. So I'm very grateful that she has actually spent some time explaining the constitutional impact to me. So thank you for that.
I am delighted, Mr. Chair, that I can be of service to the honourable gentleman. This is a long-standing issue about how we deal with our seagulls and the interference they wreak on our town and their residents. But we know that further measures are needed. We've not solved the problem yet. Whilst wild birds are protected by law in Scotland, I'm going on to a point, indeed the honourable gentleman anticipated my remarks. Wild birds are protected by law in Scotland. Local authorities and authorised persons are allowed to control or manage certain birds for the protection of public health and safety and to prevent the spread of disease. So if the problem becomes or is believed to become unmanageable, there are further measures that local authorities can take if public health is believed to be in serious danger. What is clear is that we need to continue to monitor, as the honourable gentleman said earlier, we need to continue to monitor this situation. The public, local residents in coastal areas, although not just coastal areas, need to have protection from this menace. And we must find a way to work towards a more permanent and continue to look for innovative solutions for this difficult issue. And I'm keen to see what the Minister has to say, what pearls of wisdom she can offer that I can rush back and share with the people of Scotland who will be most interested in this. And I hope I have provided some enlightenment for the good members here today who don't have the privilege of representing Scotland. Thank you.